Hey everybody, we're just going to show you how to replace a bathroom countertop without destroying it. It's a laminate countertop and we're replacing it with butcher block. This one we tried to paint just white over it and sand it up and paint it, and it didn't work so well. I'll show you what it looks like. So you can see it has a little bit of a glossy shine to it, but certain spots turned yellow from the polyurethane. I don't know if you can tell that. So it looks kind of ugly, and then obviously it's not been very protected as well, so there's those spots where the paint's been chipping up, and it was just a really cheap job. So we're gonna go ahead and we painted the bottom black, and we didn't really coat that yet, so we might coat that in polyurethane. But we're gonna basically take the whole countertop out and then replace it with butcher block and stain the butcher block and show you how it's done. This is my wife, Marissa. So first thing we're gonna do is go shut the water off downstairs so there's no water pressure. Almost all the time your water shut off valve will be at the front side of your house, like street facing side of your house, where the water supply comes in. In this case it's in this back room right here. This is the front of the house, and then this is the very front wall of the house. So it's right behind here. And it looks just like that. So we can just go ahead and pull this valve all the way like that, and that'll shut our water off. Okay, so we'll go ahead and test it. All right, looks like that worked. So your lines under here will still be full of water. It's those two, one on the right and then one on the left. We'll go ahead and disconnect those and then disconnect the drain so we can actually pull the whole sink out. All right, before we disconnect anything, I'm gonna go get a 5-gallon bucket for any water that spills out, especially with this drain. I don't know if it's plugged up at all or might have water in it, so we'll get a bucket for that, as well as the hot and cold lines. Okay, so I just got like a cleaning bucket, a mop bucket, a Phillips screwdriver, some big slip joint pliers, some smaller ones, and then 2 pipe wrenches. That's pretty much all you need. A drill might be easier instead of a Phillips to get the screws off underneath the laminate counter to pull it off. All right, I'm gonna start with this pipe right here. Basically take the big slip joint pliers and start loosening them up. You may want to wear gloves too doing this kind of stuff because it might be nasty. Now I'm disconnecting the hot and cold lines. And I'm just gonna prop both these lines up somewhere so they don't just leak out, so I can get that bucket out of here. If we look at the bottom of the sink, you can see these screws that are holding the sink in. So I can go ahead and take those off. I believe there's 4 of them. So I'll go ahead and unscrew those with the Phillips screwdriver or the drill, whatever you're using. And then we should be able to use a razor on top to go around the trim of it and pull it out. So I got those taken off. They all just kind of fall off once you unscrew them enough. So this whole sink is now just connected by that caulking. So we can go ahead and cut that and probably use a putty knife to pull it out. Okay, so I'm just going to use a utility knife and just go around. We actually did this caulking when we painted it, after we painted it, because it was really bad. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut all the way through it, all the way around it, and then get a putty knife and a hammer and just kind of tap it in all the way around. And then eventually it'll just be free and you can just pull it straight out. Like that, pretty much free already. Just like that. Go ahead and pull the sink out. Into a bucket. All right. Okay, so you can see this is where our sink was, and then I have to see how we're gonna unscrew this. So as you can see right there, there's a screw going into the laminate. So I'm guessing there's just a ton all the way around the edge holding that down. So we'll go ahead and take those out, and the actual counter should just come right off. Might be it. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and cut the caulking under the mirror and then over towards the wall right here. And then may or may not have to take the mirror off, we'll find out. So. That mirror's not sitting on it. Okay, so our mirror is mounted to the wall. Probably just glue it on the back. I'm gonna take this excess silicone off. And this just clean it right out. So here's the top where the counter goes. It was just right here, and right here there was just 2 screws holding that whole laminate countertop on, as well as the caulking all the way around. So we can scrape all this off and get rid of that, and then we're gonna have to tape the mirror off once we're done and paint that gray all the way under there so it looks normal. But we'll go ahead and clean this up a little bit and go start on our measurements for the butcher board and see how big it needs to be, and as well as where the sink needs to sit. So here's our butcher board. We got it from Home Depot for like 106 bucks, I think. This one is 50 by 25 by 1.5. Our countertop's only 42 by 21, I believe. So we'll be cutting some of the side off. And the edge is rounded, so against the wall, we'll cut right here so that that end will stay rounded around the corner. And then we'll cut off the back up until the wall. All right, so we're gonna do 22.5 by 43 inches exactly. And then we'll worry about cutting the hole for the sink. What we'll do for that is put the old laminate countertop right on top of it, and then basically just use a marker, draw it out, and then drill a hole straight in the middle with the biggest bit you have, and then just work around the edge with like a scroll saw or something. So we just test fit it and it looks perfect. This side and this side are the ones I cut, and we're shoving those into the corner. Right here has that beveled edge on the front, and then right here is just kind of a sharp corner, but that should be okay. That was just cut from the factory, so it looks good. We're gonna go ahead and lay the old laminate countertop on top of this, and then just draw with a Sharpie the size of that sink, and then just go ahead and drill through it with a big hole, and then start cutting it all the way around. All right, so here the countertop is on our butcher board. I'm just gonna go ahead and draw where the old sink was. Alright, so that is cut out. It took much longer than expected. Probably just have really cheap blades. Just using a Walmart Hyper Tough, I think it's called a miter saw, I'm not too sure. So that's done. I'm gonna go ahead and sand up that corner down there where it pushed out a little bit. And then we'll probably just go ahead and where that thing was going around the outside, just sand that up a little bit. And then go ahead and coat the whole thing in polyurethane and start getting it in there. All right, so we're gonna use this DEFT clear wood finish. It's a semi-gloss lacquer. We're just gonna brush it on and let it dry for about 30 minutes. All right, so it's dry to the touch now. We're gonna go ahead and put it in place and then make sure the sink fits. And then, yeah.
Oh man, that looks great.
Before I put this in, I'm actually gonna clean up this excess caulking so we kind of have a fresh start. So we're actually gonna go ahead with this countertop out. It'll be easier anyways. We're just gonna go ahead and paint all that gray across there, and then once that's dry, we can just shove the countertop in there and then screw it in and then worry about the sink. So. Alright, this should be somewhat dry. I'm gonna go ahead and add another coat. Alright, paint is done. I'm gonna go ahead and get this in place. Oh yeah, huh? Alright, so we'll have that. And then I'll go ahead and screw it in. Nice. And I'll pretty much just do everything backwards. I'm just gonna hook up those pipes down there and then we'll go ahead and caulk it off and be done. So I've got that water hooked up, the plug right there hooked up, and right there, and then got all those screws screwed in to hold the sink down, and then the drain hooked up as well. So now it's already looking so good. We're gonna go ahead and do the caulking around the sink and on the side, and then we will be all done. Alright, that's it, you guys. So it's all nice and finished with that clear finish. And so you can see I've got all that caulking done all the way along the edge, and then as well as along the whole sink edge. So it's all waterproof around there and won't seep down. Underneath, got that pipe connected back up, those two water lines connected back up, and the sink fastened down with those 4 brackets. And yeah, it's not too bad. Thought it would be a lot harder than that, but it was just those 2 screws to get the whole top off, and just unhooking the sink. Just make sure you turn your water off before you do that. And that's pretty much it. It took us probably an hour and a half to do all of it.